Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Bad English Podcast. I'm Nikola, and if the name of the show, I guess, didn't already give it away, English is not my first language, and that's kind of the whole point. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little nervous right now, and because I've spent most of my life behind the camera, and that's where I'm comfortable, that's where I know what I'm doing in a sense, but being on this side of things, actually talking, putting myself out there like this, it's new for me. And I think that's why I wanted to do it. This podcast is really about real conversations with no filters, no pretending to be perfect, just honest talks with people I admire and people I've worked with, people who inspire me. And the English might not always be perfect, but the stories will be worth it, I promise. And, for the first episode, I couldn't think of a better person to have on than my guy, Nick Janssen. And Nick and I go way back. I mean, really, really way back. We started out as friends in LA, and somewhere along the way, that friendship turned into a creative partnership that honestly changed the direction of my life. And you know what they say, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, Nick is really one of those people for me. And together, we just premiered our film One More Game in Macedonia, in which, if you told me a few years ago that I'll be premiering a film in my home country nonetheless, then I'll probably would have really laughed at you. But here we are. And the crazy part is that we didn't do it with some massive Hollywood budget. We did it with a lot of passion, sacrifice, with a lot of stubbornness, and with whatever we could get our hands on, with the help of a lot of people that help us along the way. And that's really what I want to dig into today, and this idea of making more with less, because I think a lot of people out there are waiting for the perfect moment, for the perfect budget, the perfect conditions to just start creating. Nick and I and our team are probably the living proof that you don't need any of it. You just need to start, and grab your coffee if you have one, grab your headphones if you're driving, get comfortable, and welcome to episode 1 of the Bad English Podcast with my best friend, Nick Janssen. And let's get into the thing, right? It's always about the fluff, and it's all about that window dressing that's happening, everything around the substance. So the substance that comes always last, where everybody focuses on all the window dressing and nobody focuses on an actual substance. But I don't know, man. How does it feel, though? How does it feel? This has been what, almost 3 years?
Well, since when? I was thinking about, it's been 5 years since I started writing the script.
Was it 5 years? Like that. Holy shit. 5. Is that what, COVID? Yeah?
Something, around that area. Yeah, for sure. It's funny enough that from so many people, a lot of interesting stuff happens during COVID, or not. But yeah, I think that's when I started writing the script. 5 years later, here we are. I mean, very close to the premiere. Pretty crazy, man.
Yeah.
How that goes.
I mean,
for some reason, it feels like when you start writing, you don't imagine it taking so long. You only hear people that make movies this was in development 10 years ago, whatnot. Oh, wow, that's crazy. But here we are. Years later, yeah, started writing and
no, but I think it comes with age also, because when you're younger, when you hear somebody that has been in the business for, let's say, 20 odd years, and then they tell you, oh, I've been sitting on this for 12 years, and you're young, and you're like, why would you sit on something for 10 or 12 years? Why don't you just go out there and make it? You have sort of that judgmental hat and be like, well, I don't know, I have a script from 2006 that I'm saving, in a sense. It's been really 20 years. So then 5 years have passed, and then you're like, how did this shit happen, in a sense? And but it's also, it's the same as when you have kids, right? It's days are long, but years fly by. That's the saying. I feel it's almost as if it's the same thing, because then it doesn't feel like 5 years have passed when I think about it. Even when we shot the commercials in Macedonia a year prior, it was probably the same time frame. I remember it like it was yesterday. And even if somebody stops me on the street and said hey, when did you guys shot OMG? I was going to be, I don't know, last year, and it's been almost 3 years. And for me, it's been only a year, but you don't feel it because you're sort of knee deep shoveling,
Mm.
and that's,
Yeah.
I was moving something around and, like Chloe came in and was like, hey, Dad, like, what's this? And the shovel that YJ made it, and this was like
Yeah.
2023, and like, OMG, I still have it. I shit you not. Hold on. Right over here. So that's a prime shovel. So you
Wow.
see it like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does it
Yeah.
say? Like OMG
Gee,
2023.
funny what it.
And
Yeah.
it's like it's like the
It's a
shovel
legit
award,
shovel.
right?
Yeah.
It's like a legit, and I had it like pinned to the wall for the longest time, and I put it right next to it on the side, so every time I see it, it reminds me of it.
Mm.
And for the longest time on this side of the wall, I had your VFX spreadsheet.
Ah.
So it's
Yeah.
like I had it
Yeah.
print
Yeah.
out in color and everything because it was part red, part green, but the majority
Yeah.
of it was green. So every
Yeah.
time I would sit and we had to go take care of something, I was like, oh man, fuck this shit. And
Mm.
then I look at the list and I was like, hey, look, if Spider-Man can go through this list one
Mm.
by one, I
Yeah.
can pick up this phone and start calling because it's for one another. And that's
Mm.
really the things that
Oh, beautiful. I didn't know you actually
carries
hung
you. Yeah,
hung
I
that
put
thing.
it because visually, every time I look at it, and you're, man, he is in front of a computer, knee dip, like
Yeah.
shoveling, one shot after the next. And that's the one thing that I guess the people don't, I wouldn't say they don't understand, but sometimes it kind of gets lost in translation, is that, oh, Nick is the director, so if the call time is at 6, he comes at 11 when everything is set, and he shows up in front of a screen and he says yes, no, and then he leaves, and just a bunch of people do a bunch of stuff until he can come back
Oh.
and be like, yes, no. Like, they don't see the potato diet
Yeah. Yeah.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
a daily
Oh yeah.
basis,
Yeah.
and sort of how much you essentially have to take care of. And then after the movie is done, when everybody goes in and after the wrap party and everybody feels great, it's like, oh my God, we shot this thing. Then you go
Yeah.
home, you sit
That's
in
it.
front of a computer,
That's
and
it.
it was like, oh my God, I
Oh.
gotta sync all this footage now. I gotta go through it. Like, I gotta select. So
Yeah.
I have always, because for me, if I sit in front of a computer for a longer time, I get antsy. I cannot do it. Like, for me, I
Mm.
wake up, who do I talk to? Send me
Yeah.
somewhere to solve something, to talk to people. And every time I sit in front of a computer for an extended period of time, I'm not built for it. So I
Mm.
always find it I admire you for your strength to just roll up your sleeves, sit down, and just shovel that shit when no one's watching.
Ah,
That's
right.
that's so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And that's why I had that spreadsheet over there with all the shots, and I would look at it, and I know it's tough because you're by yourself for 14 hours straight in front of a computer trying to rotoscope a tree.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like,
especially as I remember doing that when you have a newborn, right? When Alicia, when she
yeah,
was born, and there are also pictures there where I would be on the couch with her on my chest and the laptop on my belly, let's put it that way, and then still editing and doing stuff. But at the same time, it's a huge mountain to climb, and I 100% man, especially with those visual effects. I do remember moments that it really got hard, and I really wanted to, you just wanted to give up, because it's just you're just all alone, right? Nothing in this movie. This movie will not. Nobody else is going to do it. Like, that's the thing that we're dealing with, where we've dealt with this production. And all the way to the end. It only feels right now, I have to say, with Cineplex, that for the first time, it feels like there is another mechanism involved that takes something and helps, gives you a little bit of leverage, lifts you up a little bit, and that's their platform, so it gets some traction. But other than that, I feel like every single step of this film we bled for it. It's all done with our bare hands. And especially then in the creating and the visual effects part, because there is no money, there is no nothing. So what are you going to do, right? You're just going to do
yeah,
it yourself. But the great thing as well is when that's a great thing, because it's sort of my own story and it's our film. Every single time, when I was doing those 700 visual effects shots, every single shot, every completion or every little tweak that I would do and it would be better would give me so much more, let's say, satisfaction or dopamine or whatever, because you feel like it is also for you. If this were to be for, I don't know, like someone else, some corporation, and wouldn't get paid for it, you would be like, fuck no, I'm not going to do this. Why? But you just need that constant little spark of happiness to just get to the next shot. And it was like a 1 year. It started as a 1 year editing process, visual effects process. But then you start to get a new perspective on the movie and you get new ideas. How about this? How about that? Show it in front of people, get it torn apart and recut it. And now, even to a few weeks ago now, since AI and the whole thing, there are certain limitations that we obviously had in our production, right? It's a small budget thing. We cannot have big crowds of people watching this gameplay. We just couldn't. You don't have the money for it. You don't have the logistics for it. But thank God, due to AI, we can have a few sparks in there in the movie where we can show that sense of scope. And that's like that little extra % that this movie needs. And so, yeah, I've been doing that a month ago and now it's in there. And now I really we have to make a DCP and get it ready for the cinema. So now it's like, screw everything and let's get it really done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a huge work.
Yeah, what I like about what you said is also the level of control that you get, because in filmmaking, just like in everything in life, there's always a trade-off. Big budgets, less control. More people involved, then there's a bunch of opinions that you got to follow. So if you go on a sort of a path that we started to go on, where you don't have a lot of resources, but then you have control. I have never 20 years been in a room where all the decision makers are in that room. You can count on one hand how many people have a say on what's going to happen. And it all begins and ends with you in the middle to carry out that vision. And then when that happens, you don't have somebody to run it by. So essentially what we decide, it's what it is. And there is liberating in one sense, but then also resource-wise, you have less resources to make it happen. So then you're going to be relentlessly resourceful. That's where and what it comes down to. And I feel most of the time where projects fall apart is in that stage. We've been part of a few that sit in a drawer for a couple of years. I've been part of a few that 6-7 years later have not seen the light of day because there's just not enough momentum, or people don't put enough weight behind them to get it done, or they move on into something like a new shiny toy. And what was that saying? The art is never finished, only abandoned. So it really rings true into a glimpse on what's happening on the daily basis,
which for sure, in the independent film scene, people that have to do it themselves, there is the fantasy, oh my God, I'm going to make a movie. I will need money for it. I have to pay people. So you go ahead and do that. That's the first mountain to climb. And that's huge, right? And then, and you have writing the script is another one. These are all stages in the filmmaking process where big majority of the people will just quit at some point because it gets too hard. Writing the script is the first one, getting that going. And there is a big difference between writing a short or a feature film. Huge. A feature film, if you really put your heart into it, especially the first one, because you have to figure out all the story mechanics and do all the research if you want to do it somewhat proper. It might take a year. There's so much can happen in a year. So much can happen in your life. Focus might drift. Okay, but if you make it and you stay focused, and whether it takes 1 or 5 years, whatever, great, congratulations to step one. The funding of the whole thing and getting the production going is that preparation is where so many people fall through because it just gets, so hard, and the money, and it's so expensive. Okay. But nowadays it's easier, of course, right? You have a lot to your disposal. I'm not even talking about the whole AI thing, but, camera wise, and you don't need that much. That's a huge marketing term, and where a lot of people believe in, and that really works. That's true. You don't need a big camera and stuff like that. Then you're talking about production. And that's where you find a lot of movies in a drawer when after shooting the film, you get into post-production. And that's where it really gets rough, because the whole excitement and all the physicality of production, and we're making a movie, this is so epic, and look, this, that, then you get into then it's just you, especially if you're, it's you and the director and the editor, maybe, if you have one. And then you have to go through this film, and then you go through this psychological struggle where you realize that, shit, man, I envisioned this movie to be like this, but this is actually what we have because of all the constraints. This movie sucks. I don't know. I can't do it. You have this huge mountain to climb. You have to just get this first rough cut going. And especially if you work with people that you cannot pay, of course, if you get a somewhat decent editor, you're on the bottom of the priority list for those people. So they have other stuff in between. So everything gets push. So, and that's also where a lot of movies, we've seen it, they just stagnate, and they will be put in the drawer, and God knows. And then things happen in your personal life. And then you're like, yeah, this whole film I still have to do. And then that's where it dies. So then you have that. And then the last thing I would say, within post-production, then editing is still the most accessible thing. But what about sound, right? What about the sound design, but also mix and all the technicalities? And after you've done all of that, that's great. Congratulations. Like, that's a miracle that just happened. You finished the feature film, and now you have to show it to the audience.
Yeah.
And
the first that somebody's going to see is like, oh my God, dude, look at this shit.
No, but getting it to an audience, like that's the hard, that's for us has been a huge thing. Like for it's been super hard, because we're trying festivals and doing those things. And when that doesn't pan out exactly the way you want, then you get through this whole thing but still you have to get it out there. So this is, we're talking about 5 years. This is why it's 5 years. It's, and thank God we did it. It's the greatest thing that we celebrated is, in Macedonia with the people there. It's only meant to be that way, man. And, of course, credits to you for making all that stuff happen. It's going to be great.
And the first thing that comes to mind is the level of sacrifice that went in across the board. This movie doesn't happen without the Steins, without Bologna, without YJ, it's
the
Mario,
post-production, everybody. It's
post-production, Alter Ego, Kiru, everybody that really...
Kevin.
Kevin, like, really believes in it and really takes time to sacrifice. You're willing to achieve something. Tell me how much you are willing to sacrifice in order to do it. It always comes to that trade-off. It's one thing for you to want to become something, and then what are you willing to sacrifice for it? That's the number one thing. And another thing is, a lot of the times when somebody sends me a script and they're like, read it. And I often ask them, I was like, okay, it's a good script. What's the philosophy of the production? And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, no, but we're going to shoot it on a red camera. I was like, bro, I don't care what you're going to shoot it on. Like, just tell me why this, why now? What is it that this story speaks to you in a way that, what is the unique lens what is your point of view, where you're going with it? And most of the time where people, when they recruit other people to come in to be part of their project, the first thing that they're going to come in, if they have $1,000, they're going to be, oh, we're going to spend $900 on the camera or on an Alexa and lenses, and whatever $100 is left, we're going to spend it on everything else. And that's mostly on the setup. So no matter what you have on on paper, it's never going to work because nobody invests in human capital. And what I mean by the human capital is this story does not happen without the friendship and the mutual sacrifice that we have between all of us. That's the thing that nobody understands. Even if we shot this thing on an iPhone, it would have still looked as good, and it would have still looked and sounded, and the acting would have been amazing, and the directing would have been amazing because the people behind it have a vision and know how to get there. The camera is just 5% of the whole equation of what makes and what happens in front of the lens. And most of the time where projects fall apart is at the beginning stage when you go in and you recruit people and your pitch is, we're going to shoot it on a Red camera or we're going to shoot it on the Alexa. Yeah, but who's going to shoot it? I'll take Roger Deakins on an iPhone and then some random schmuck on an Alexa. That's the thing. And it's just, I don't know. I've always thought that films fall apart in that inception, and that's why. But when you are younger, you don't realize that. You take a camera, you pointed at something, and it was like, oh, like this lens is $5,000. Like I put it on an Alexa. Why is it my movie still looks like shit? Yeah, because you're shooting directly in the sun. It's not 3/4 backlit at the right time of day. You know what I mean? With the right supporting cast, it's gonna look the camera. It's gonna come in on set and walk on water, right? It's when an actor comes in, shows up in front of a camera and can glides through the set. There is that authority that comes in, and you're like, holy shit, this person doesn't walk, just glides. And you automatically, you get excited. Everybody gets excited. He hits his mark, then the DP is excited. Everybody works in sync. And then when you can feel it, like the magic happens. There is nothing worse than like somebody comes in, does not hit marks, trying to improvise from first second, and then you come in, but look, we are shooting it on Alexa. Let's post it on Instagram and get those likes, right? And it doesn't translate into long-term wins.
Exactly. It's that's short-term gain where people are after, and especially the social media side of it. Which is funny because we're very opposite. Social media for you and I mean, we don't post much, and we don't.
Yeah.
But at this point, especially now at the PR side of it, you just have to, man. God knows, maybe I have to make a TikTok account. But I was thinking, what's interesting.
It's never too late, you know. Like if you see us auctioning scripts on TikTok, signed by the director, shit hit the fan. Or this movie did not really well. But I'm joking. Sorry for interrupting.
No, but. Yeah, I was thinking about the casting side of things, because I think outside of technicalities, of course, you need a certain skill set there, and it's all about the people behind it, for sure. And that focus that you must have as an independent filmmaker to go far and beyond and sacrifice everything. But the cast in the movie, I think, is still, because now our final product will be released.
Yeah.
And it is about it's about those actors and what they're going to bring. And
100%.
It's been an extraordinary adventure for us, because going to Macedonia, not really knowing what's out there, but writing a script that is about a 16-year-old boy that has to have an emotional, let's say, range from A to Z and really go and carry this whole film. That was a first gamble. And I remember so vivid, like all this stuff, because it was so intense. We go there, we had like 1 or 2 weeks to cast or whatever, and in a month or 1.5 max, we start shooting, and then we have to get it all on camera in like 21 shooting days. Everything went so quick and was so intense. And I remember so well when we were casting and getting these people and these super hard decisions, man. Super hard decisions. That's what I remember. I still feel how hard it was for me to cast the right lead, Martin, also the Dimitar character, because these guys, you start to know them a little bit also, like not personally, but you get
Yeah.
emotionally
Attached.
connected to
Yeah.
these people. So you want to do them all, let's say, the favor, but that's in the end. I remember our conversation. It's all about what's best for this film. Put everything aside, and yeah, I think we've been it's been a hard process, but I think it was very good. I think we made the right decisions here, as good as we could. I'm still
Yeah.
very proud of that. How do you
No,
look back on that casting process?
oh man, if you indulge me in like 1 minute of like a prequel into it, I have always have problems with directors when they come in and they say, well, this person is a shitty actor,
Mm,
or this person, look at it, it's just his acting is terrible. But then the way I see it is, when you go in as a director, you go through a casting process, you select an actor, and then you be like, hey, John, for example, come in, you're great for this. You go through a whole audition process, you send an offer, they accept it, he comes into the movie, you guys go through it and everything. He comes on set, comes on time, ready to work, listens. And on the first take, you come in, it's like, hey, drink the coffee this way, drink the coffee that way. Six, seven take. And on the eighth take, you're like, okay, I got it. Cut, I got it. And when you say cut at that particular moment is where your responsibility begins and his ends. So then when your movie sucks, you cannot go in and be like, oh, look, he's a shitty actor. That's what my movie sucks. That's a shitty performance. No, bro, you're a shitty director. And I would also add this: easy decisions, hard life, hard decisions, easy life. So what you did at the beginning through the casting process, hard decisions, because you have so many things and so many ways that you can go in a sense, you can go into so many different directions. That's the directing part. So then you sit down and you make those hard decisions on the front end. So you choose the right people for the role. Then if they come in, because it's a mutual respect and trust, they also got to trust you, because when you yell that cut, you have their best interest at heart. And that's what nobody talks about. Actors sometimes they want to just get a role, whether or not they're right for it. They don't realize that there is no long-term sustainability. What you say no to is the things that really going to define you. So in that mutual trust, in the way that we went through the process, when we sat down and you were, hey, I'm going to go this way. And that was not the most political correct way that we went about the process, but we had the best movie decision at heart, because always what matters is what's going to end up on screen. Nobody's going to be here 100 years down the line and be, oh, remember there was supposed to be a truck over here, but they brought us a van. So what are you going to do? Shit out of luck. But no, it's what you end up on screen. It's what's going to define you. And that's what's going to be the legacy. It's either it's going to be working or not. So you can go into a casting process, try to appease everyone and be, I'm going to select this actor because of a social media following, or because of this, or because of that, or somebody just comes into the room, blows you out of the water and says like, oh my God, like that's the character right there. That's the person that I'm going to go with. And you're going to fight for it. And if you get the right guy, and it's smooth sailing from that moment on, because every time he shows up on set, there is sort of like, holy shit, we got it right. And you see it come to life. You see it galvanize. You see people stand behind it. There is nothing more powerful than that. And on the flip side, if you get it wrong, we've both been a part of projects that you just like come in every single day knowing that there is nothing you can do. You're, and not because they're a bad actor, or they're bad people, or they're not doing their job, is because they're just not right for the role and everything falls apart. That's the thing that always stands out to me. And in this particular instance, I mean, in the way that everything came to be and transpired, it was almost serendipitous in a way, because I remember us having the conversation, what's the philosophy of the film? Well, how easy or hard would be to find a 16-year-old in Macedonia that is fluent in English, that can carry out a performance. And if we don't get the right person, that there's not going to be a movie. That was a unilateral decision. We were never going to move forward with the movie if we didn't find that person. And sometimes you think you have something while something else comes in and you're like, holy fucking shit, this is it. And excuse my
Yeah.
language, but that's
Yeah.
and you have two ways of in which you can go about it. You can then say, well, I choose the easy life. And I don't want to make these hard decisions. I don't want to offend somebody. I don't want to step on toes. I want to be politically correct. But then you end up in so-called shitty film where you gotta go to a dinner party and be like, I don't know, like we did. It's kind of like he's a shitty actor. No, bro, you're a shitty director, right? It's like that's
Yeah.
that's the hidden thing that nobody talks about. That it's extremely important because without it, the movie doesn't exist. We go back to it. You shoot it on an Alexa, you shoot it on a Red, you shoot it on anything else. Because guess what? At the bottom line, that movie that's gonna play on that theater screen, that stays on there forever.
Yeah.
All the political decisions and hurt feelings and everything goes down the drain because it doesn't matter. What you see is what you get. And always what ends up on screen is the thing that's going to carry out that legacy for everyone. Your name's going to be there front and center, but everybody that's going to be on that screen, they're going to be proud to sit there with their kids and be, hey, look, that's me. Dad, is that you? That's me. And that's that's the most powerful thing that can come out of it. And it comes in when people sometimes go through these decisions. I know it's very uncomfortable to go and look in the eyes and be like, hey, look, like we're going to move into another direction. We decided to pick this other person instead of you because both people, they come in and they go through the process and they equally want it. And they're both great.
Bro, I want to interject there because of two things. First of all, because you're dealing with younger actors that don't have that experience. So for them, especially we're coming in there, you were Macedonian, let's put that way. You're born there, now you're officially American.
No,
but
hold on.
We come in there.
I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for that one because people are gonna be like, oh, look at those Americans. So like, I'm nowhere here or there. I go to Macedonia and people ask me there like, oh, where you're from? I was like, bro, like, what do you mean? Like, I was born like right over there, like on this street over there. And it's like, no. You smile way too much. Like you stop at stop signs. You are not from around here, right? Then I come here and people ask me where I'm from. So I'm nowhere here or there.
I see.
When you like dissect it, you take the best from both worlds. And here, every time somebody asks me where I'm from, it comes with a disclaimer because I say Macedonia and everyone's Mesopotamia? No, Macedonia. It's like north of Greece. Yeah. And probably the best description somebody ever gave me. I'm in Vegas on the strip there, and then somebody comes in and, hey, do you mind taking a picture of me and my girlfriend? I was like, sure. So I take the phone, take a picture. It was like, hey, bro, like I noticed you have an accent. Where you're from? I was like, I'm from Macedonia. Do you know where that is? He was like, yeah, I know. You're from that place that a lot of shit happens. I was like, yeah, that's it. You nailed it.
Perfect.
But it always comes with a disclaimer. I'm from Macedonia, and then you gotta put it and be like it's here, there. It comes with those kind of things. But I interrupted you, so continue. So
I was just thinking about where I left.
Casting.
Oh yeah, so they're young, a certain age, 16 or whatever, and you come in there as a foreign production, and like, oh my God, this is a big deal. Which literally, when I talk to Vedran playing Dimitar, still says that, like, oh, that's how it felt like for them. So if they get rejected, they take it very personal, and it's it's harder. And actors, as an actor, the older you get, you learn that rejection is the biggest part of everything. You get rejected for like 90% of roles.
Comes
or
with
whatever.
the territory, yeah.
That's what that is. So that's one thing. Also, what I would want to say is what I learned is that for me as a director, it's super important to keep a healthy distance also from these guys, because I would remember, because it's not like we had 100 people lined up, right, for the lead role. No, definitely not. There wasn't that much we could pick from. Luckily, they were all very, very good actors. But I also remember getting a little closer with these guys and really feeling when they were giving a performance on the casting, like, oh shit, that was so great, man. This is so awesome. It would be a scene where someone would like tear up and stuff, and I would feel something. So then I would give some of these children a certain almost guarantee, like, oh, they're going to get the role. But then later on, then I would sit down and would think about it, would talk about with you guys and put everything together, because it's not only sometimes about one specific person for one role. It's about everything together. If you look at Tony Michalovsky, of course, like is an amazing actor, super experienced, but also the fact that he is a little bit older just makes it a little bit more interesting on that end as well. So there is a lot of things that come into play, and then later on I would sometimes have to reject someone for the role or whatnot, and I would feel really shit about it, because like, fuck, I gave them too much hope. I should just sit there just being nice and polite. Inside I would be super happy, but just keep it. You don't do too much of that, especially with younger actors, so they don't get that huge disappointment later on, which I could sense later, and I felt bad about it. But that's just the way things went, and that's my personal learning curve.
Yeah.
Last thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And I have one last point to make.
So I think mostly what I want sort of like actors to take away from it, because sometimes you're not in the room when those decisions are made, is to solely understand that I know it's hard when somebody tells you, hey, you're not going to get it. But it's also very important to understand that if a director or a producer likes you and they see you in a certain light, you're always going to be their number one call for the next one and the next one and the next one. So even sometimes when somebody is advocating for you and one thing doesn't come out, so you always, in a sense, got to do your best and put your best foot forward. And no matter how disappointing it is, the number one thing that you got to do is just understand that sometimes it's just out of your hands. In so many projects where you don't have a say on how the film would look like, especially when you're on a younger side, when you go to an executive and you're saying, hey, I think this person would be perfect for it. And they were like, no, but look, it's like, I have a cousin that his girlfriend, she's got to be in it. And that's where films fall apart. From the inception, you don't get the right person for the role, but it's also on the flip side, on the person that lost it on that particular moment, it's even better, because what people don't understand and underestimate when it comes to movies is the power of collective trauma. It's a very powerful thing when a group of people go through a collective trauma together, because it really bonds you for life. So no matter what, even through the casting process and no matter the duration of it, even if you don't stay on for the full film, there is something that really bonds you. So you can always come back to a particular actor. I mean, I have, and I can say it by name because I've told him 1,000 times. It's Chris Moss is one of them. Like, he's a dear friend. But if there is every movie that I'm going to make for the rest of my life, I want him to be a part of it one way or another. It doesn't always work out, but you just know what you're going to get. You want that person to be on set. You want him to be that glue that pulls everything together, that kind of bundle of energy that's going to come in. It's going to tie the whole thing together. It's not going to sit in his trailer all the time or in a room and just be, oh, I'm makeup ready. Now I'm ready to go. No, like, he comes in character ready and he's just ready to go. And he is one of those people. So no matter what it is, like, we couldn't get him for Macedonia right now because there's just no roles available. But guess what? On the next one, he is my first call. Like, no matter what, you have those pillars in place. Just like I know that I'm not doing another movie without you getting involved one way or another. It's like that's in it, like, intertwined with friendship, with going through collective trauma together, sharing those successes and failures along the way. And when you're going to go on a journey, I mean, look, it's a 5-year journey. So do you want to go with somebody that you don't like and fight on a daily basis? Or you want to go with somebody that you would willing to put it all out there and be on the front lines and trailblaze, in a sense? Because that's what it takes. For that 8 weeks or so that you are in Macedonia or wherever it is, you're going to roll up your sleeves and you're going to say, like, nobody is going to outwork me now for the next 8 weeks. That's it. it. Even if I have to be
Mm.
awake for 22 hours straight, 20 days in a row, I got to do it. There is just no other way.
Mm.
And that level of determination, it's really going to show. But you got to do it where everybody in the team is wearing it's willing to do that sacrifice, because without it,
Mm.
it's just gonna leak left and right. So you're gonna be left holding the bag on pretty much everything if
Mm.
you don't
Mm.
have that attitude and mindset. So that's why I was gonna say, for actors, sometimes it's very easy to be like, oh, I didn't got the role, fuck them.
Yeah.
But you
Exactly.
just don't understand just the decisions that go in. So that
Mhm.
dialogue has to carry through. The actor is also like very precious. So you gotta really treat it as such, because there is really nobody else that gonna be in front of a camera. I
Mm.
to this day, like, I'm recording this and I'm uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable being in front of a camera. You point the camera at me, I was like, what? I've spent 20 years behind it. The moment you point a
Yep.
camera at me, I was just uneasy. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
made to be on camera, right? It's like, that's not my thing. And I always admire actors that if somebody's gonna come in
Mm.
and they're gonna
Yep.
hit it every single time. I mean, I'm Tony's fan since I'm little.
Mm.
Boy, essentially. I was like, holy shit, like watching him on like Balkan Khan. Tony plays like Django Sapun. I would come in United States and I would be, bro, have you seen this movie, Balkan Khan? Have you seen like Django Sapun? And sometimes me being on set now, doing this movie with Tony, and you were like, man, like, I gotta pinch myself, because like, if you would have told my
Yeah.
12-year-old self that I'm gonna be working with Tony Mihalski, I'd be like, bro, like, you're full of shit. You're out of your mind. There is no way this happens. And I'm sitting there and I'm just watching him work and galvanize young people and just be an inspiration for a whole new generation of actors. And my heart is warm.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and I was like, this is what it's all about. I love this. This is absolutely amazing. From that moment forward, I'm really content and fulfilled with what happened. And
Mm.
that's it's one of it's things that's something that's you cannot explain it in words, in a sense, because you really
Mm.
gotta go through it. And it's pretty cool to kind of see it in that sense. And I mean, even how lucky we are to have Petar. At 16-year
Mm.
old, he is like 16 going on 40. For some things, he's just mature, comes in and just crushes it one take after the next. And you're like, oh, no matter what it is, it's a dusty environment. It's cold, it's hot, it's whatnot. Cut his fingers, gotta go get a tetanus shot or whatnot. And that's the thing. And he comes in and delivers every single time. And for people that want to go into acting that are listening to this, it's not about you nailing it one time. Where actors really make their money is when the sun is about to set, when you only have one take left and you don't have money to come back tomorrow. And they got to nail that one tear that's going to come out of their eye at that particular moment. You're going to nail and hit your mark when everybody is at the edge of their seats on the crew side and everybody is stressed out of their minds. And under that pressure, you got to deliver a
Mm.
performance then. When
Mhm.
you see the dolly guys like pushing the dolly back and forth 65 times previously before, you got to nail that one shot, and you go
Mm.
in and you nail it. That's where you make your money as an actor. You as a director, on the other hand, you make your money when you're 26 shots behind at lunchtime. So we were like, hey, how
Mm.
do I tell this story in 5 shots after lunch and condense
Mm.
this 26 into 5 and still make it look and service the story and
Mm.
not look like shit? That's where, as a director, you make your money. On a 99 takes, you're gonna nail one, whether you're on the acting side, whether you're on the directing side. If you have the resources to shoot over and over again until you nail it, I mean, heck, you're gonna nail one, and then one at a
Mm.
time.
Mm.
But it's what you do when you're like
Yeah.
relentlessly resourceful, and what you do as an actor when all the stakes are up and all the pressure
Mm.
is up and everybody's looking at you. And then you gotta go in and you're gonna nail your dialogue and your
Mm.
marks and everything else. And you go in and you nail it, and that's it. You got it. And that's
Mm.
what really separates you as an actor, that people are gonna call and be, look, like, I want to work with this person because they're fucking amazing, you know, in the
Yeah.
pressure cooker situation. This is what happens. And
I think it's funny. Well, that sort of mindset trickles through to almost the entire production as well, if you look at the way that we had to do things, because we go into Macedonia allowing ourselves 1 month, 21 and a half shooting days eventually, and we cannot go back. There is no time for pickups, whatever. And we're going to be faced with a lot of complications, a lot of struggles, shit to shovel on your end, on my end, on everybody's end, from us to the focus pullers, right? How many shots do we have per setup? Many times we couldn't do more than 2 or 3 times. And sometimes I remember this one scene with Slickshot, the yelling guy in the trailer.
Yeah.
There, Taylor
Dennis.
and I.
So I absolutely love Dennis. It's
amazing, dude. Yeah. So with the cinematographer Taylor, we had this whole thing planned out from I don't know how many angles to really visually tell the story in such a great way, over the shoulders and front angle. But let's say there's 10 different angles. In the end, because for whatever reason the set wasn't ready, or things happened that we could only we had to skip 1.5 days. We only had 2 angles and only 2 takes per angle. That was it. So what are you going to do? What are your choices? Are you going to choose more of an abstract angle or on this character, or what are you going to do? You know, and at that point, the only thing that matters to me, everything falls apart. Everything, I don't care about anything else except from the actor's performance. So I want to see their fucking faces, and I want to see them close enough so I can feel everything. We're not doing any wides. We're not doing any dolly difficulty, because we only have, I don't know, like 20 minutes. I think with Dennis, was like so crazy, because I wanted to give him so many more takes, but we just couldn't. I think it was two times we could do everything on his angle.
Yeah,
and
I remember
we
really
pulled it
well.
off, you know. So and this is just a small example of how it was for everybody. Focus puller as well. He has to nail everything in 1 or 2 shots. So it's
and especially that it's pulling focus on the Lomos vintage lens, that it's not even, and it's 1970s back from one lens, front from another, and it's sort of like a Frankenstein, and you gotta pull it through, and that's what it's, because that's what nobody talks about, right? Like a focus puller, it's like, imagine it's a great performance, imagine you cannot come back tomorrow, and imagine that shot is out of focus. What do you do? And those are the sort of like the unsung heroes that the movie doesn't happen without them. And often it's not recognized in a way, and especially in an independent cinema. I'm not talking about like 1904 or like, what was it, like a wonder that you can plan for 2 years in advance with $100 million in your pocket. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about just an independent production that's going to go in, and the first thing what they're going to say is, well, you can get a LiDAR and this thing can pull automatic focus. And that's the first thing they're going to cut. And what they don't realize, it's like in the most important shot of your film, it is going to happen. What's you think it's going to go wrong, it's usually going to go wrong, and then some. So you think it's like, this thing's not going to happen to me until you come home. And I don't need a backup until you do. And then what, right? So it's really easy, like when you are doing this, because we are talking about not be able to come back and reshoot it because you don't have enough resources. But it's also, even if you have the resources, good luck bringing 50 people from around the world together for a single, time period, within 3 or 4, like weeks to get everything done. You cannot coordinate schedules. You cannot even coordinate a schedule for Zoom, let alone just traveling people from around the world and, to be on the same mission. Like sometimes you just have a really like a small window opening that you just gotta
exactly, bro. It's but what you're saying is that momentum. We're now in this momentum. I feel the momentum again with the release of the film, and that we had that momentum when we were creating the film. That's all there is to it. We keep talking about this word momentum. Once you get that, you stay on it, because that's vital, man, to get it across the finish line, and that's what it is. And exactly. Going back, no way. I remember actually, I suggested that with this film. I said to you, you know what, man, this is going to be so hard. Like, I don't know if we have the resources. Let's just go and shoot a fucking amazing trailer for this. So maybe we can get some more money somewhere and do it that way, because we cannot pull off this film in a month. I just don't know how when I line it all up. And I remember you telling me, Zabroski, that's just not going to work. We're not going to get back. Getting back is going to be so incredibly hard. We have this thing going right now, and this is our chance, and this is when we have to do it. And you're 100% right, because if we stuck to my strategy, I don't know, we wouldn't have made it, man. We would have never completed this film.
Man, look, it's prior, right? Like what happened with also, I could say in like 2 or 3 projects that I have been in that exact situation, Forbidden Fruit being one of them too, where you have just a limited amount of money. Then what do you do? So we're like, do I shoot 10 minutes of it or do I shoot this? And I remember with Forbidden Fruit, what we did, and all credit to Lou also for being on board with it. We said, hey, listen, this is the money that we have. You gather the entire crew in one room and say, we're going to work for the same day rate. There is not going to be any, you get this much, you get that much. When you divide evenly what's left on the budget, this is how we're going to do it. And that's the only way. There is just no other way for this to get done. And then the last thing you want to be is get stuck with a trailer going and running around asking for permission to make your film.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah.
It's the worst feeling in the world, because once you have that momentum, the difference between shooting something short and doing a feature film, it's an additional week of favors. You're going to call in on those favors regardless. Might as well call in an additional week. Instead of you running around asking for more money to complete your film, you have built an asset. That's why, to me, shorts, I love shorts. I love making them, because if you can making a short is a lot more difficult than making a feature, because you got to tell a story in a shorter limited amount of time. You only have like 5 or 10 minutes to really get somebody caring about a character, like telling a whole story, driving it to a conclusion within a 10-minute period, while on a feature film, you just have more time to introduce the audience to these characters and to really like carry it through. So when you are going, if somebody would tell me, like, I'm a first-time filmmaker, do I do a short or I do a feature? It will be it depends kind of an answer. But most of the time, if it's independent, I would say go for the feature, because at the end of it, you are a feature film director. You have one under your belt. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, the lessons that you're going to learn along the way, it's going to be the most invaluable thing that you're going to have moving forward, because it's also a war of attrition. When you are going on making a feature film, it's not about day 1 when everybody is excited, or day 2 or day 3 when everybody has the energy. Is what do you do on day 15 or day 16, that when you are exhausted, when you're showing up and you're shooting the climax of the film, or you got to show up, and it's all about making those little decisions one step at a time. It's never about the first week. You got to keep that momentum going, because guess what? Those people are going to show up. And if any point you lose the people that came there to make the film with you, you're done. Right? I've been part of projects that when the movie is not good, when people say, oh, what went wrong, I can point the exact time or place when a director just lost their crew. The crew said, like, well, no more. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just not doing this anymore for one reason or the next. So you really gotta be all in 100% of the time, but it's also, that's where it's your strong suit. And I've seen now, I have a lot of people from the Netherlands, and I love Dutch people because it's very pragmatic. It's very in the approach. It's a very, if there is one thing that I can pinpoint, is there's a level of calmness that happens. And when you come in, when somebody comes in with an idea or a problem or anything else, it's like, hold on, let's pragmatically talk about this. Let's make a level-headed decision. and let's move on. There is no, it's never a drama attached to where it's he said, she said situation or, oh, we got stuck on this thing. And there is no, in a sense, ego involved. Yeah, there is a level of sternness that comes with it. And you as a director, you come in, you're going to shoot 10 pages today that you're behind schedule, right? You're going to eat that potato, right? Waking up, you're going to show up on time on set. You're going to get those nutrients and you're going to be like, hey, it's the potato energy. So you come in and you are ready to go. So if somebody comes in and was like, hey, Mr. Spider-Man, what do you think about this and about this? You turn around and it's like, hey, I love you. We'll do that tomorrow. Today is not the day. And,
no,
you know it, like that's it, because there are like 10 pages but it's also, that's the number one thing that why you are also amazing is because you are also the editor. So you come in on set and you have the built-in advantage of knowing what it will work. So sometimes you need 5 shots. You'll be like, no, I need this close-up. I need this wide shot from over here. I need this reaction. And until we get these 3 things that I know that I'm going to use for sure, we're going to be, and on the flip side, if you are stuck with a director that just doesn't understand in those time that it takes you to shoot those 3 shots, we are still sitting talking about blocking and trying to explain to him why he needs that reaction. So I've been on both sides, and me as a producer, I gotta trust you. And what I mean by trust, not to trust you like as a person, I gotta trust you as a creative. And that means if you tell me, hey, Nick, this is the guy that I want to cast. So then when I start calling an agent, a manager, the actor, if you then come in and flip-flop and says, like, oh, I changed my mind, I want this guy, then I got to go and undo all of that. So start something new. And then you're going to come in and was, oh, but what about this person, right? And then that indecisiveness bleeds into everything. You come in on set, the wardrobe person comes in, it's like, hey, Nick, you want red shirt, you want blue shirt, you want yellow shirt. And you're, no, yellow. And then somebody yells green from the background. It was, yeah, I agree with green. And then, if I'm not able to trust you as a creative in your decision and you don't know what you want, then it's really difficult for me to do my job. It's really difficult for me to come in and you say, hey, we need this MacBook over here with this monitor because the character just plays on a 32-inch screen, for example. I was like, okay, that's set in stone. That's what he envisioned, and let's go get it. But if you come in and flip-flop, then you'll be like, hey, I need this type of a keyboard. Does he really need it, or should I wait until lunch and then maybe he'll need something else?
Yeah, exactly.
So then we'll see
more
there.
exhausting.
So it really bleeds into that indecision. And with you, that's your strong suit. There is no indecision on that end. You come in, I'm going to shoot these pages. I know my angles. I know what I'm going for. I know exactly what it is. And it's and when I knew we're going to make this film, like when is the exact moment. I remember I was in Northridge on a charging station, and you called me, and I'm sitting in my car waiting for the car to charge. And you called me and was like, hey, bro, can we from tomorrow on get going on these Macedonian words? I want to be able to communicate with the crew and stuff or anything else. So if you can write up 10, 20 words in Macedonian, then I can read through and learn every single time. I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll write it up for you, so you're going to be able to communicate. So I hung up, and in my mind, that movie was half in the can already because I know that level of determination. Right? You want to, we didn't have the funding for the film. The movie was not written. None of it was set up, but the level of determination starts with the little things. So the moment you call me and the moment you think on how you're going to communicate with the crew when you get in Macedonia, you are halfway there. That's the vision that you gotta have as a person, that when there is nothing, even words on paper, hey, I gotta learn this language as a method of communication. That's where it starts, because a lot of times I have a script. Now what? Where do I go from here? Well, you take that script and you call the person that you trust the most. or a collaborator and build that momentum right then and there. Because it doesn't start with you knocking at random doors and cold calling. It starts with the person that you trust the most to go in there hand in hand and make this film. That's what it starts from day one. You call the person you trust the most. So in your case, when we get on a call and we talk, it's about the most random thing in Macedonian words, but the momentum is already in motion.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is it's your that film and the story that you're building and whatever is becoming such an important part of your life. You're visualizing it, say, all the time. You're really living it. It sounds crazy, but you cannot see your life beyond finishing the movie. You don't think, what am I going to do in 10 years, or what am I dream? No, this is my dream. This is the moment, right? And that's what sounds even more crazy for me. And I've changed a little bit in mindset and certain things, but I would often think to myself, I just don't want to die before I complete this thing, because that would be sad. Only that, it's crazy because there are bigger things in life than just making films, but that's what it just was. So you think it all the way through, and the only thing is, this last thing I would want to say is, with this independent film thing, when you don't really have the resources, when you all that stuff, the only thing that you do have is yourself and your own determination, your own drive. So preparation has been the key, technically, on set, when you're talking about, hey, all the angles and how to fix something, in 2 shots instead of 26 shots that you originally wanted, is just being fucking prepared as you can be, to the point that you're so exhausted that you don't leave anything on the table, because then you have the flexibility to pivot when it's needed, and it's needed all the fucking time. And if you don't, you get stuck and everything goes to shit. And I have all of us, have you to thank for that, our preparation with you, and the trust for you to take care of all the stuff that you had to take care of and take it all the way off my plate. I had to solely focus on directing and working with Taylor, and that's why we brought this film home, I think. Yeah, that's the last thing I want to say.
Man, no, that's beautiful in a sense. But the one more thing before we go is, it comes back to the friendship and being there for one another. So for me, the number one thing is, I know your vision because we extensively for years have talked about it. So when you know something, for example, on your end, then when I go out there, it's easier for me to go out there and be like, hey, look, my job is to absorb the blow from the outside world and keep the inside world intact, right?
Exactly.
Because so you don't get bogged down with stupid shit, whether logistics or those type of things. So you can focus on what you do best, directing. It's really easy when you're on the same page, going out there and putting yourself on the line, because we are there for one another. That I know that when you're in that position, you're going to do the same thing. You and Bologna are sacrificing at the same time everything that we stand for as a group. So for me, it's really easy to go out there and people come and say, I'm going to break your legs. I was like, great. Do I come to you or you come to me? It's like, how is this breakage going to go? I mean, it's really like, I don't see any other way. Like, if that's what it takes, you know what I mean, for us to get this completed.
Bro, people that
go
listen
in
to this,
and
they
do
think
it.
like, well, that's a funny thing what you just said, but it cannot be true. But it actually was a serious message that you got at some point with the struggles that you were dealing with, just to clarify.
No, but that's not even, it's the crazier shit.
We'll get
just
to
like
that.
keep like happening. But yeah, if somebody, we've got more calls than I can count in terms of like, oh, we're gonna break your legs, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I was like, okay, it's great. Do I come to your home address or you come to mine? Do I tell you where I live, or do we meet at a neutral location? Do I get to break some legs as well, or is it just like a one-sided thing? So it's just, and there's like, oh, don't fuck around, you'll see. I was like, okay, cool. I mean, you know where I am. I'm not going anywhere. So but it's easy, right? Because when we go after the shoot and we sit together. It's the level of brotherhood. You don't put yourself on a line like that for a random person that you just met. You go in and you create. And we come back to the collective trauma. You go through collective trauma together more times than not. And then
Yeah.
you end up with relationships that last a lifetime. And that's what it comes down to. Everything else is just window dressing. No matter what the script is, no matter what the story or the camera that you're going to be shooting in, it doesn't matter. What it matters is you surround yourself with people that believe in each other and are on this quest together to go in and create something that's going to be there forever. This movie is there forever. Tomorrow, your kids, their kids, they can come in and they can look at it and it was, hey, look, Nick Janssen, he created this. And no matter what happens, that's your legacy. And you could have mailed it in. You could have not given it your all. You could have been at home and be like, just want to sleep. Where's my blankie? But you didn't. And now you're left with something that when everybody sees it, you're going to be proud of it. No matter if somebody loves it or doesn't love it or what they say, it doesn't matter at that point because you can go in, you can look your daughter in the eye and you will, you know what? I stand behind every single thing of this film that I made. Every single second of every decision and every story, I stand behind it. And that's out there for the world to see. And there is nothing more beautiful than that. It's not about box office or if it's going to be watched by this many people or that many people. It's like, yeah, we always want the movies to be watched because you make them for, if we make movie about alcoholism, or if one person quits drinking, we did our job. It's like that's sort of the mantra that you're going after and the goal in a movie that you want to make an impact, you know? But even if none of that happens, you're going to come home when all the lights are out. You're going to be proud from what you've made and you're going to be able to sleep soundly at night knowing that you gave it your all. Sometimes it's going to go your way, sometimes will not. And that's okay. That's life. But you did your best every single time. And that's what matters.
That's what this film is. It's everything. We gave it our all, for sure. So, beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. I'm going to go to the coffee house and start
Holy
working,
shit,
bro.
man. Yeah. Vanilla latte.
Yeah, vanilla latte. Yeah.